Okay, so part three, last little bit here for today. Uh, just some reflection questions. What are your sources of hope? And this will be the journal for today. What are your sources of hope? What gives you strength to carry on? What brings you light in the dark? You'll see why I put that one a second. And it's good to remember these things because you don't want to have to think of what brings you hope when things get too tough. You want to already have those sources. So for me, pretty cheesy answers here right now. Things that give me hope, well, Notre Dame, especially Notre Dame football, but really Mary, right? The reason I have Notre Dame here is Mary. And it is a little bit ridiculous that this is a 16-foot gold statue of Mary on top of a gigantic dome. It is actually real gold. But the cool thing is that anywhere on campus, wherever you were, you could see this statue of Mary. And what it meant to me was that no matter what was going on in my life, I could count on Mary, to guide me back home. I could count on Mary to be there with me. And so throughout my entire life, this is another view from campus. It's just anywhere you were, you could see Mary shining brightly over the campus. And that's the idea, right? That anytime that you need to turn to Mary, Mary's there, right? And so this is another statue on campus. It was kind of much maligned because Mary's kind of got a little bit of a mullet there, but it's the Holy Family. This idea that Mary, Jesus, and Joseph, they're the Holy Family. They were a source of hope in my life, right? Like that, you could turn to Mary and Joseph and pray for their intercessions. That I could be a good holy man like Saint Joseph. I could be a good holy family, or I could help make my family a good holy family like these guys. So you want to think about what your images of hope are, so that when the thing that the trials that are going to come in your life do in fact happen, you have something to cling to. So just a few other quotes on hope from your boy G.K. Chesterton. This is him a little bit later in his life when he's like 6'3", 300 pounds, a big guy, smoking a cigar, carried a cane that had a sword in it, had a revolver in his pocket. But he's a journalist in London, but a cool guy. He says, hope is the power of being cheerful in circumstances that we know to be desperate. He's got more stuff on these themes, but the point isn't that, and you're going to see this in all the quotes, you don't deny the reality of the thing in front of you, right? You don't deny the trial in front of you. You don't numb the pain, right? It's not alcohol and drugs and things like that. You don't pretend it doesn't exist. You face the thing in front of you. You face the fear. You embrace the challenge. But you do so with this cheerful disposition because you know ultimately the victory is going to happen. It's the way to think about your vocation, right? Another one from your boy Benedict XVI. To have Christian hope means to know about evil and yet go and meet the future with confidence. Again, you don't deny that there's not bad things in the world, right? We don't pretend that everything is sunshine. We know that there are bad things in the world, but that doesn't stop us from doing the thing God's calling us to do. And then two more. One of my favorite rap groups, Atmosphere. If you've never heard of Atmosphere, you should check them out. More so their earlier stuff than their later stuff. But this is from the this picture's from the album When Life Gives You Lemons. This is Slug is the rapper and the producer's Ant. But again, they're worth checking out. But they have this song called Flicker. When I made this PowerPoint like 4 years ago, this is my favorite song at the time. It was a song written about for his friend who had just died, and the idea is that like when he heard his friend's song, even just one line of the song, right, he had this one little spark in his life, and it erased the darkness that he was feeling for his friend's death. And I almost want to flip it on you. We've been talking about your sources of hope for when things get dark in your life, but to flip it on you a little bit, that you could be the source of hope in someone else's life. That one phone call from you, or that one text from you, or that one thing you say to your friend could be the very thing that gets them through a tough period. You could be the Sam to someone else's Frodo in that sense. It's a song worth checking out. It's not their best song, but it's pretty good. And then finally, I don't know if you remember our boy Brian Greenfield from the beginning of the year, but he always was talking about hope. And one of the things he said, is like, don't be hindered by that fear. Let yourself be guided by hope. And there's two things in that. Is the first what we've been talking about. Don't be afraid. Don't let that fear control you, right? The other one, and this is going to get into our talk on freedom tomorrow, is to allow yourself to be guided by hope means you've got to relinquish some of your own controlling desires in your life, that you want to be in control of everything. Because it's hard to embrace hope when you think that you're what's ultimately in control of everything, and you're not. And the sooner you realize that true freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you like, but by doing what you ought and allowing God to work everywhere else, right? It's going to be tough to have that real hope. And so that's what we'll talk about tomorrow is how does freedom relate to hope? And we're going to look at the Shawshank Redemption to do that. Another movie definitely worth watching. I think it's still on Netflix, but we'll get into that tomorrow. Okay, guys, don't forget to do the journal. Good work on the test, and please submit assignments if you haven't done so already, because I want to make sure you do in fact graduate. All right, guys, I will see you in the next one.